Hi there, knife people, hello lady and gentlemen. Today there is a cool new knife in my pocket that I'll be reviewing, and because I have a lot to say about this knife and the type of the knife that it is, I am going to break the video down in two parts. The first part of the video will deliver to you all the tangibles and intangibles about this knife: ergonomics, dimensions, weight, etc., comparisons to other cool knives that you probably own. The second part will get into true hard testing. We're going to take a look at the lock resilience, the mechanism toughness. We will also measure the hardness of the blade using this Rockwell benchtop tester. Both parts will be full of interesting information, and whether you already own this knife or just considering buying it, please stay tuned and watch both parts of the video. The two parts of the video will be published simultaneously with one caveat. The first portion will go public on day one and will be viewable by anyone. The second part will go into my members only area for a couple of days to give those folks who financially support my channel an early look at all my findings. If you are, however, not a monthly contributor, don't worry. The video will come out very shortly thereafter. I'm talking maybe 48 hours. So everyone will get to see the video absolutely free. I appreciate your support and stay tuned to my channel. All right, I don't spend a lot of time on unboxings. There are other channels that are excelling at that. Here, I just wanted to show you that this knife came in the hermetically sealed waterproof box. And it has a valve, a Beaver valve, meaning if the air expands inside it, it pushes out, but the moist air from the outside cannot get in as long as the box remains closed. And what I like about this box, I'm not a big proponent of expensive packaging, but this box is useful because you can actually fit passport, other things that you might want to keep moisture free. You can build a survivor kit in a box like this, and it will keep your kindling dry. So enough about that, let's focus on the knife. There were so many videos about Vosteed Psyop. It's extremely popular. The initial batch sold out quickly. There are premium versions of it, less premium versions of this knife. I was happy to receive this knife for my review from Vosteed. So thank you, Vosteed, for keeping faith that somehow my videos help you guys in some way. If you're regular on my channel, you know that it takes some fortitude for a company to provide me with a sample knife, because I don't let the fact that I got it as a gift stand between me and the true findings about an item that I'm reviewing. What I want to talk about tonight, this knife obviously has a button-operated top liner lock. I call it BOTLL for shortness. So BOTLL locks are now becoming more and more prolific. They made their first mass appearance last year in 2024. In year 2025, there are numerous models, including some very inexpensive ones, that come on the market with this lock. The main prowess of the lock, it's finger safe. You can actuate it with your thumb by pressing the button without risking the blade dropping on your fingers if you keep them away. Of course, if you forgot, the most common mistake, pinky stays, and a lot of knife enthusiasts got tip of their pinky chopped off, so you still have to be careful. Remember, best safety is located between your ears, and it's called brain. Before starting the work on this video, I counted how many other BOTLL knives I have in my collection, and to my shock and surprise, it turns out this is number 10. I have 9 others. I plan to show you all of them, so here we go. I'll compare this knife firstly with Vosteed's own creations. This is the Porcupine, and here we have Ankilo. Both are operated the same way. The difference here, the button is round. On these two knives, the button is oblong or racetrack shape. There's definitely uncanny similarity between the Psyop and Porcupine. I don't know if name matters, but I think Psyop just sounds a little cooler. And they're very similar in many ways, except the Porcupine has one method fewer of deployment. It only has front and reverse flick and a button operation. We have a thumb-studded Ankilo here. It has a regular flipper, front and back flipping with the thumb studs, and a button operation. On Ankilo, you can also use the fuller to operate it just like a thumb hole. I have another Vosteed here on the table. This is Raccoon. Also has a round button, just like the Porcupine. And it's a prolific knife, comes with many different locks. I like this version the best. Another big player in this space is Best Techman, Keanu model. This is a knife designed by Keanu Alvarez, a great young designer. And it's a beautiful knife, very inexpensive because it comes in D2 steel. We'll talk about steel later, and I'm planning to test the hardness of this knife on my Rockwell benchtop tester. Another prominent name that entered the competitive market of BOTLL locks is Kaiser. This is Drop Bearer 2, designer is Azo, and I reviewed it earlier on my channel. Actually, I reviewed all of the knives that I'm showing you, and I actually have a video explaining how the top liner locks operate and why they're such a great, secure choice for your folding blade. Very shortly, I will also be reviewing this tenable Fernrohr. I'm having difficulty pronouncing the name. That's a knife I purchased recently. And there's a very inexpensive player in this space. This is DeWalt utility blade holder, which also operates on the same principle, except they didn't provide any thumb hole or thumb stud, so you're forced to flick it open by depressing the button or using two hands. $10. And here are some knives that are much more expensive that have very similar locks. This is Leatherman's unfortunate attempt to replicate something similar. It's not exactly the same, but in principle, it's very similar to the BOTLL locks. But it turned out to be a marketing failure. I got mine to almost work, and I have a video about that. And here's the original. This is Smock Lock by Spyderco. These are expensive, and they're worth every penny of this price because that's an excellent knife. I removed the secondary detent, so now I can flick it open like this without depressing the button. And it's a great knife, and let's put them side by side so you can see. Speaking of comparisons, let me go back to the Porcupine. If you already have a Porcupine, you're getting 90% of experience. Even though it seems a little smaller, it has roughly the same amount of cutting edge because of the more pronounced belly here on the blade. And it's only like 1/8 of an inch shorter, or 3 millimeters shorter than the Psyop. So really, if you have one or the other, you can just stick to one and maybe venture into looking at maybe a smaller knife like the Kaiser Drop Bearer 2, a great knife. Or if you want something beefier and more interesting, more of a conversation piece, Ankilo by Vosteed is a great choice. Of course, you can skip all of them and go straight to Spyderco. If you already have a Raccoon with this system, that's a great knife. There's absolutely no need to replace it. I haven't reviewed this guy, so I am not going to make a comment. Keanu in D2 will offer you an immense edge retention. Some of these knives are in the budget steel category. This one is D2, 14C28N. We got AEBL, which is sort of a progenitor of 14C28 and Nitro V. We got 14C on the Porcupine as well. S35VN, which is very premium steel on this Ankilo. And that brings us to this knife. It's an LMAX. LMAX is a steel I discovered recently, even though it turns out I had some knives in that steel. I just never had a chance to do any research. And performance-wise, it falls smack between S35VN and S45VN. I know other reviewers make other comparisons, but if you look at Dr. Laren Thomas's tables, you will find that the performance of S45VN at 61 to 63 HRC and performance of this knife anywhere between 59 and 62 HRC or LMAX is basically indistinguishable from technical standpoint. Let's take some measurements. The blade length is 3 5/16 inch or 86 millimeters, and the cutting edge in inches is 3 1/16 or in metric system 80 millimeters. The knife weighs 122 grams or 4.3 ounces, which for this size of a knife is a reasonable weight. Definitely not optimized for weight, even though the liners have cutouts on the show side. It doesn't feel heavy in hand because it has a reasonably good balance. A little bit farther back than I like. I like the balance point to be closer to the pivot. I hear a lot of praises to the ergonomics of this knife in the knife community. However, I do think Porcupine, by the same company, has better ergos. And here's why I feel this way. When I grip the Porcupine, whether I'm choking onto the blade into this very nicely designed finger choil or holding back at the handle, at no point there are any gaps between my hand and the handle itself. So I feel solid. My fingers are in contact with each other. I have full control. I have a tactile sensation of where everything is. With the Psyop, I have a little bit of a complaint in this department. When I hold it back in the finger groove here, I feel like I am too far from the cutting edge. When I choke up onto the finger choil, it creates a gap here. If I push my middle finger toward my index finger, it creates an empty space underneath. So I don't feel like I'm in full control. And when I choke back like this, it generates a little more pressure on this finger than I like. Minor complaint. It's not particularly uncomfortable, but I do find myself looking for a better position when I work it. This here probably is carryover from other locks. You know, this immense amount of space. See, this is more like a, let me grab a Spidey. Let's grab any Spidey. Okay, happens to be Manix 2, lightweight. Okay, so again, see how they sort of came to the same design solution here, where my fingers are not separated in either grip, and in this grip I am close to the cutting edge, as close as possible, as opposed to here. So there we have it. By the way, I should mention my hand is medium size. I wear medium to large gloves. So for somebody with a larger hand and maybe thicker fingers, this may not be an issue. I also don't like in a reverse grip, see how far I am from the stop here? Again, this is not the case with a Porcupine, because in a reverse grip, I am firmly resting against the finger stop right here. Finger guard, I guess I should call it. To be fair, I have same issues with the Smock Lock Spidey. My fingers are too far apart or too far from the cutting edge, or here is the opposite problem. When I'm resting pinky against the finger guard, my thumb is too far from the pommel. So I have to kind of apply pressure like this if I need to make a hard motion, right, in that direction. Let's see how it cuts right off the box. We'll start with the easiest material. Take a listen. I don't feel any snags. This is the easiest material to cut, printer paper. This appears to be sharp enough to do that. Next level, this is an inexpensive paper towel. It's fibers and fluffy, so it's harder for some knives to break through the edge because of that, to the edge of the paper. And we're having a little bit, not too bad actually, so it gives me nice clean cuts instead of tear. Let's see on the continuous cut. Finger choils, while offer advantage in ergonomics, they sometimes detriment the continuous cut capability. No big deal. So we're going to give it a 6 to 7 on a scale of 10 for sharpness, somewhere there. And my favorite test that I do based on paper towel tube availability is this unsupported tube, and it's absolutely smooth. Let's see if we can cut in there. Okay, it's trying to bite, which is good. I don't know if you noticed, but the blade shape, it's continuous radius here. There's basically no straightaway, which makes this particular task a little harder. It's a matter of finding the proper angle of attack. I don't want to kind of gouge it. I feel like it could have done better. 6 out of 10. Let's quickly measure behind the edge thickness. I'm not sure what the angle is. All right, zero it out. So we're going to grab it. Behind the edge thickness is important to those who pursue extreme sliciness. I'm getting 14.5 thousandths of an inch. Should be a little thicker toward the front, toward the tip. Yeah, we're getting close to 19. All in all, very slicey geometry. So it was giving me a little bit of a trouble, so I'm going to use my USB microscope. This time I'm just going to connect it directly to my phone and video the edge using the native app instead of putting my iPad here, which you can also do. This became an indispensable tool for sharpening, and you will see why in a second. Looking at the tip, no complaints. Looks like a pretty well-shaped tip. I don't see any issues. Stropping is evident, but it almost seems like they stropped some portions of the edge more than others. Let me clean it off. I got a lot of dirt here. You can see they're very thin, very decent apex in this area, but here you start seeing some of the burr rolled over. Looking at different parts of the blade, I feel like there's very light stropping and some of the burr got pushed to one side. Right there you can see it. If I rotate, you can see it's indented on the opposite side. So looks like the production person was rushing the job here a little bit. And let's look at the sharpening choil area. Ooh, yeah, they had a couple boo-boos here. They cleaned up nicely. Let's flip it over. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, it's stropped more on this side of the blade and more toward the sharpening choil than toward the tip. First impression out the box, this knife is hype. Probably due to its cool name, Psyop, which sounds to my ear at least a lot cooler than the Porcupine. Porcupine, by the way, outperforms it in sharpness and ergonomics, hands down, by the way. Excellent knife for half the price. I'm not even going to spend more than 10 seconds on Raccoon. This is going to be a classic on par with Bug Out, PM2, and Par 3. And if you so desire to venture into a more premium or mid-grade Vosteed product, I would definitely sign up to recommend the Ankilo. The knife is cooler, the name is cooler, there's more functionality to this blade in the EDC capacity, and ergos are about the same as on the Psyop. Now, I am going to do the hard testing, and hopefully I will be able to fall in love with this knife based on the hardcore performance. For that, you have to tune into the next video and see what happens there.